This is Via Voices, the podcast that brings you insights from the champions of international education. I'm your host, Brooke Roberts, and together we'll uncover the stories behind impactful global learning experiences and the professionals who make them possible. If you've ever crossed paths with Roopa Rawjee, you know she's the kind of person who lights up every room and then turns that spark into action.
Give yourself grace. I think there is a lot of learning in hindsight. It's not necessarily in the moment. I have a lot of time that I spend really looking in the rearview mirror, and the penny drops years later and I go, good golly. What? Why did I not figure this out in the moment?
Yes.
Right?
As Executive Director of International Engagement at Illinois State University, Roopa brings not just years of experience, but a global lens shaped by her early career in India and a fearless leap into a new life and career in the United States. Hello, Roopa. Welcome to the Via Voices podcast. Thanks for making some time for us here.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Well, I feel like full disclosure, we both have to share. I know you just did 2 sessions today presenting, and you just got back from Thailand.
Yes.
So I want to start, you telling me a little bit about your international education professional journey. How did you find your way into this profession?
I love that question. Thank you. So I was born and raised in Mumbai, India. I still call it Bombay because it was Bombay when I left it. And, as an immigrant, sometimes you're caught in a time warp. So I am in a little bit of a time warp with my home country and my home city. I was a teacher for 12 years at one of Bombay's oldest girls' schools. I chose to have an unconventional marriage, met somebody when I was 19 and didn't believe in the whole arranged marriage thing. And I say this for a reason. I think somewhere in my heart, there was always that person who didn't follow the conventional, traditional path, right? Things didn't quite work out, and 12 years later, I needed to make a life choice. And my father had moved to Los Angeles many years ago. So it was an opportunity to go to Los Angeles and reconnect with a father I hadn't seen for many years. The best way to do it was on a student visa. I also needed to get training to fit into the American workforce. So I came to California, Los Angeles, to get a second master's degree and a California teaching credential. I was a non-traditional student. I was grown up. I wasn't like the other undergrad and grad students, right? And so at orientation, we had an opportunity to share a little bit about who we were and where we had come from. This was 1998. There were 3 girls from India in that group of international students, right? Very different time, very different opportunities. The folks at the international office heard my story and that I was a trained and experienced teacher and immediately hired me to do co-curricular programming for international students. There I was studying full-time, but I was working on campus like many international students like to do. And I fell in love with higher ed. My lens as a teacher immediately showed me the needs of international students. I immediately saw opportunities for co-curricular education. Yes, we have faculty who teach our students in the classroom. But I always tell parents and students that it is a safe, happy, successful student outside the classroom who is then successful in the classroom. And our job as co-curricular educators is to create that safe and happy, welcoming space outside the classroom. So that has always been my mindset. The international office on that campus was under student affairs. And so my grounding is very much in the student affairs way of educating students as well. And here I am 26-ish years later, loving just working in international higher ed.
Well, and so obviously you were in California doing your master's finished, and now you're in Illinois.
Yes.
Can you give me a little smattering of the stops along the way?
Sure, I love that. So just 2 parts to that story. My campus created a position for me. I went into being a full-time person doing programming. I was coordinating a speakers bureau and I was coordinating a mentorship program for international students. Went on to doing international student advising. 9/11 happened, things changed. Great opportunity to learn in a very different setting. And when my citizenship status solidified was when I was able to actually become a DSO and work in CVIS. But, great advising experience, right? We have student advisors at our front desks all the time, and it's the students who are delivering all the frontline info. Along the way, I knew I had changed my trajectory. I decided not to go into teaching. I wanted to do full-time administration. So I had the opportunity to enroll in an EDD program in educational leadership. California Lutheran University was about 40 miles away from where I lived. And so on Thursday nights, I would drive 40 miles one way to go to school.
How long did that take you?
It took me all of 7 years.
Okay,
it took me a while.
That's commitment.
It was commitment.
Yeah, for sure. Every week for 7 years?
A long time, a very long time, yes, indeed.
Wow.
But the opportunity, to match my passion, I was an English teacher, so my dissertation is a focus on the connection between English language proficiency and academic success in international students. I was teaching in our intensive English program during lunch breaks. You know how international students are. We want to do everything. But when I graduated in 2010 with my doctorate, the California economy was down. We had been taking furloughs for a while. I chose to use my furlough time to write my dissertation, right? Making lemonade.
Yeah.
And it was time to look for a job, and the opportunities were not on my home campus at my alma mater. So I said, hey, if I'm looking, I'm going to look everywhere. Yeah. And I found myself interviewing, actually, 7 a.m. the day after I defended my dissertation. I was on a phone interview. We do stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We keep going.
Yeah.
Eventually found myself at a small liberal arts public school in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And so I moved to Bridgewater State University in 2010. My partner, who is born and raised in LA, used to work in Hollywood in post-production. His work situation was changing, and so he moved to Massachusetts a year later. 2010, 2011, that was a life-changing moment for both of us.
Yeah.
I was at BSU for about 7.5 years as director of ISSS. Really great opportunity to work on a campus and really wear many hats, work with many divisions, departments, great growth opportunity. I realized I was ready for more. I had come from a large campus, I was beginning to kind of feel myself boxed in a little bit. Looked again, and I think my mindset has always been, if I am looking everywhere. I found myself at the University of Wisconsin-Madison as an assistant dean of students and director of ISS. Great opportunity, 40,000 students, a Big Ten school, very different mindset, opportunities to do great work in a very different way that I had been doing the last few years. So that was a lovely opportunity for me as well, to sort of hone a lot of the experiences I had gathered along the way. And I think some of it is, we just did a session on, the SIO competencies, Senior International Officer competencies. And you have to think, you have to kind of look ahead, you have to foresee things. I was headhunted, and I said, okay, I'm rolling with this opportunity.
Yeah.
It took me back to Massachusetts. I found myself at Northeastern.
Oh my gosh.
In Boston.
That's my alma mater.
Oh, okay. We have something in common.
Huskies, yeah.
Indeed. And so I was assistant vice president of the Office of Global Services, overseeing Northeastern's U.S. campuses as well as Canada. Very CVIS-heavy role, very immigration-heavy role. Great opportunity again. COVID hit at that time, so working creatively to support students to think through what that might look and feel like. Again, feeling that I was capable of different and more. And I've always just kept an eye on the field, right?
Yeah.
Opportunities don't come when they are convenient for us, right? We go where the opportunities are. And so I found myself at Illinois State University, where I am the Senior International Officer. I oversee 7 units that combine my entire 26 years of experience. I oversee admissions. I oversee academic English and pathway programs, international student and scholar services, ed abroad. We call it International House and Special Programs. That's my co-curricular house. We have Management Development International, and I manage international partnerships and visitors. So I have over 30 employees.
I was going to say 30 employees, yeah.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
Yes, including some non-tenure track faculty. So very different experience again, but really a joyful group of employees, who are committed and dedicated and passionate.
Yeah. I found a lot of things interesting about that, but I also find it interesting you traded Mumbai and California for two of the coldest places to live in the United States.
People ask us this all the time. They say you were in LA and you were in Boston. Have you lost your mind? Why are you in the Midwest? We love the Midwest.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful 100-year-old designer house. And we're just loving the experience, right? I think it's when you open your heart that you find your happy place.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always joke about how I did a grad internship at a university in England.
Right.
And it's up sort of in the north. It's called the University of Hull. And whenever I tell somebody from England that I did an internship there, they're like, Hull? Why would you go to Hull? They don't say the H,
rainy.
They say, oh, yeah. Well, they're just like, that is like... I don't want to say anything negative about my own country, but it's like that's like going to Jersey, like what, or something like that, and or West Virginia or something.
Right.
And I was like, I thought it was fascinating. I thought it was really cool. So
Right.
I think you're right. Like I think there's so much, and I think we have that trait as international educators, right?
That's
we could
right.
find something fascinating, interesting, probably about anywhere we go. We're
Indeed.
like, ooh, look what's happening here.
That's right. And you can make your own magic no
Right.
matter where you are,
Exactly.
right? You have to
Gosh.
have that ability.
Oh my God, I feel like you should be a motivational speaker.
Sign me on.
Yeah, that's so good. So right now, you've obviously been on a lot of different types of institutions, R1s, elite private, what have you, and then now Illinois State as well. How are you and your team defining success right now? Like what's the metric, or what's the the thing you're having to hit to go to your provost and say, we won, we did it?
Right. And my provost wants me to win awards for our campus, and I have been very thoughtful and strategic in saying, I will get from point A to point B, but I need 5 years to get me there, right? Yeah. Because I am not, and I say this on my campus all the time, I want to take us from opportunistic to strategic. And in order to do that, you have to assess where you are, what you need to get from point A to point B, and what does success look like? Success for us is going to be comprehensive internationalization. It's going to be weaving a global mindset into every fabric of our campus. We have employees and students who have never gone abroad, who may never go abroad, right? 93%, I believe, of my students are in-state. They have 4 out of 5 students, I believe, are on financial aid. So we have to be very thoughtful about how we provide these opportunities. How do we bring the world to our own campus? And by bringing and recruiting more international students, I have the opportunity to bring the world to my campus. In order to do that, I need a stronger infrastructure. I'm working on, what does housing look like?
Yeah.
How are we going to help these students succeed, right? They are not just bodies. They are not just bodies in seats. I'm a student affairs person where I want the co-curricular to be as, if not more enriching than the academic.
Right.
So creating that framework, creating those steps and identifying what I need for success are key pieces for me. So things like, assessing my partnerships, thinking through how can I create study abroad opportunities that are affordable for my students, right? How do I create opportunities that are not just focused one way or another, right? We have students who do provider-led or faculty-led study abroad, which is fantastic. It's a 2-week immersion opportunity where you are handheld and cocooned by your faculty member. But those, unfortunately, are very expensive and they are short-term. They're kind of episodic learning opportunities, right? So it may work for many, but what about a student who could potentially study abroad? If I have a partner institution that has that opportunity, are we really exploring that? Are we creating sustainable opportunities? Let the student select where they want to go. I do have to make decisions that are long-term, strategic, and sustainable, both ways. Whatever my mobility looks like, my mobility needs to have all those 3 components attached to it. And it's not a sprint, right? It's a marathon. We will get there, but we want to be intentional about how we get there. So I am very vocal about what I need in order to succeed. I am very vocal about the resources. I engage in collaborative and best practices discussions in the field like AIEA because it is important. It is important for me to hear from colleagues who may have forged the path ahead of me. I don't need to recreate the wheel necessarily, right? I want to learn from mistakes. What may be a potential pitfall that I should be aware of. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to be humble. I'm not afraid to say, here is how much I can do, and let's have a reasonable target that we can reach.
Right. I love what you said about how you kind of have to know where you stand right now. You have to take a hard look at where you're at, and so being able to be real with yourself as an office, as a team, and saying, okay, here's where we're doing great, here's where we need work. Having that starting block where you know where you need to develop and what resources you need to get there.
Right. And I'm a qualitative data person,
Yeah.
right? The numbers tell me what is going on, but the qualitative data tells me the story.
Yeah.
Why is it occurring, right? What should I be aware of? So it's great to focus on numbers. It's great to have percentages and these pie charts and all of that good stuff. But to me, it's important to have focus groups, right? To hear the students' voices, to understand what is working or what are they telling me. I tell students from India this all the time. I say, listen, I came here more than 25 years ago. Yeah. Today's India and today's Indian student is very different. I'm not going to lecture at you and tell you that I know everything because I am not you.
Yeah.
You teach me.
Yeah.
And they are shocked when they hear that approach, right?
Yeah.
So I think you do need humility in order to succeed. You do need to have an open mind and an open heart to be able to accept the information and the energies that'll help success.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I think sometimes we're experts as international educators, we're experts on what it's like to travel in our specific decade, right?
Yes.
Like where we came up in it. We're experts on that kind of travel.
Right.
But maybe not so much on what it's like to travel as an 18-year-old in 2025.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So that's a really great point. So I know that, you just did this session on the SIO competencies and things like that. Tell me a little bit about how the adoption of technology plays into what you think are the SIO core competencies.
Great question, right? I think one of the things I'm focused on at ISU, and I'm very much aware of the word I'm about to use and the current climate, efficiency, right? So one of the things I was looking at is how we, for example, establish new partnerships. Or how my faculty, when they are going abroad and they have to submit contracts from providers, how my office is handling that work. And we did a business case. And found in one particular instance, it took 29 emails to get one contract moving. Correct. I see your eyes widen. That's just not okay.
Yeah.
Right? That's not efficient.
I was at first I thought, did I hear her right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, that was what sold our campus IT on our business case, because I said, look, we can't do this. This isn't serving anybody well. And so I am leveraging technology to create a process that my faculty will begin their submission through our software, on our campus, and they will have the ability to submit documents. But also, all the stakeholders in that process will have a visual.
They have visibility on all of it. Yeah.
Correct. We don't need to send out 20 emails or people asking us, okay, where am I in the pipeline? It was such a simple solution as a new SIO coming in, right? And my first year, I invested in really listening and talking to all my stakeholders, understanding where the gaps were, understanding where the frustrations were, where there was room for growth. And look, if a colleague wasn't given the tools, is it really that colleague's fault for having to take the time to handle 29 emails? That's my job, to provide the technology and the tools. And they were existing tools. Nobody thought to leverage them, right? So I think it can be solutions that are really simple, looking at what's already available on my campus without having to go out and purchase new tools, right?
Yeah.
Let's see how this works. If it doesn't work, we'll recalibrate.
Right.
I always tell my team this. With 30 people on my team, I always say we want progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It takes a while to establish that confidence and that comfort to say, okay, the new girl isn't out to really just shoot me down. She's going to give me tools and I'm going to have a better experience here.
I feel like you have that sort of rebellious spirit. I could see you being misunderstood in that way, for sure, because I know I have been too, where I'm like, I know, I just have ideas. Let's just talk about it.
Right.
One of the things I I talk about a lot with institutions is about how technology is one of those areas where I think sometimes we can get so, like, we think we're trees. We think once we choose a way, we're stuck there for life. And I think that there's so much we can learn by trying out new technology, but also diving deeper, to your point, into what the technology can already do. And,
Indeed.
And if you discover, like, oh, wow, that's really helpful, but it could also be better, that doesn't mean you can't leverage something else to even improve it later. Technology is like an evolution. It's not it's not a destination. Yeah.
Correct. And to your point, I think being a woman from India, having overcome a lot of struggles, having made my own life in the United States, I come across as intimidating to many people, right? I'm outspoken. I'm not your average Bollywood dancing Indian. I am so different, as you can tell, right?
Yeah.
So, and I do have a big personality.
Yeah.
I am wicked, right? I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I have learned to do it kindly, but I do speak my mind. And so I have credibility with people. People come to me and they say, I know you'll be honest with me. Can you tell me this, right?
Yeah.
So when you bring that reputation, and I think authenticity is about that being the core of who you are. No matter where I am, everybody will say the same thing about me, right?
Yeah.
Then when you are in a new job, people learn to understand and accept you about those strengths that you bring, and you leverage those strengths, whether it's technology, whether it's human resources, whether it's actual dollars and cents. That plays into success across the board.
You hinted at this a little bit, but let's talk more about the career side, the professional development side. Obviously, we're AIEA. I know you're very involved. Or what has been, let's say, one of the more formative or outside of like a degree, professional development or resources that you've done that has really just helped you in your career in various ways?
One of the things I got to do early on when I came to Bridgewater State University, my vice president, who, God bless him, has passed away since, he sent me to a program called the HERS Network, Higher Education Resource Services. It's a women's leadership program. I got to go to Bryn Mawr in Pennsylvania for a 2-week immersion experience with some amazing women.
It's like summer camp for adult women, professional women.
Yes, and we got to live in the residence halls.
Yeah.
One of them is actually a powerful leader right here, who Joanna Ragulska is where I met her there. And just learning from other women in the field, right? And at that time, for me, it was really just a soaking it in experience rather than doing. I don't think I was ready to do, but I think soaking that in was tremendous for me. Yeah, and since then, I think I have been very much a part of NAFSA since 2001.
Okay.
I remember I must have been so obnoxious, Brooke. I was...
Now I have to hear this story.
It was F1 regulations for beginners.
Okay.
And we were in person in Las Vegas at the regional conference, and I was sent to do the regulations because that was part of what you had to do, right? It was learning my job. I must have been so obnoxious because they gave me a best participant certificate, and I thought, in hindsight,
you know that you're like, I raised my hand too much.
I think so. And coming from India, coming from a culture where the teacher taught you and spoke to you.
You didn't,
This was a very different Roopa, right? It was the evolution of me. And in hindsight, I think I was probably obnoxious, but they were so gracious,
We need to track down whoever taught that and ask them.
I know.
They'd probably remember if you were obnoxious. They'll probably be like, no, I don't remember that at all. No, it's great.
So NAFSA has been highly instrumental. One of the bigger programs at NAFSA that I was privileged to have my institution invest in me was the Management Development Program, MDP. I now am one of the trainers that trains for that program, right? They're coming full circle and giving back. So same thing, I am an AIEA Presidential Fellow. It is important to me to give back to an organization that has invested in me. I think just bringing that ethos, that the philosophy of gratitude and giving back, both to folks who have invested in me, but also to colleagues who are growing and who are the next generation. We can't always pay back. You pay forward.
Yeah.
Right? It is important to have that in mind, right? You grow from mistakes, you move on from mistakes, but there is so much learning and so much that you can give.
Yeah.
And it's enriching for me today to be able to do that, right? I feel so valued and It's just amazing to me to go to a session on SIO competencies and have standing room only, where the organization president stayed for the entire session, right? You feel so validated. So it is truly important to me to give back, and I think I find so many rewards along the way. They are not necessarily tangible, but the networking, the learning from each other, the true love of friends, right? All of it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could tell right before we started recording, you were talking to a couple of friends.
Yes.
And you could just tell the rapport you've built over time.
Thank you.
Just hanging out with them and being in these learning spaces with them. So we're going to move on to the rapid fire portion of the interview. So just try to answer first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
We'll try to keep it at a nice clip, even though I know we like to talk. So, so tell me, what is the last book you read, and how has it influenced how you see the world?
Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Okay.
Right? Vulnerability. It's okay to be vulnerable. I am scarred by some supervisors who dinged me on being vulnerable, right? And moving past that PTSD and accepting that it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be that human leader. She empowers me, and I love going back to her works.
That's right. Yeah, I've read that too. It's really good. Here's the scenario. There are no financial, geographic, or technological barriers, no limits, and you could fix one thing about international education. What would it be?
I want to fix a lot more than one.
I know, but you get one.
I can only get one. I think it's money. I think I'm seeing so many international students wanting to come and study abroad, but having to take loans, having to, and institutions who have the money to give scholarships are attracting those students. Institutions that don't have the money are not attracting those students. So to me, if it was one, and in the moment, it's money. It's money for the students.
You're not the only one to say that. I think money solves a lot of problems. It
Indeed.
doesn't solve every problem, but it solves a lot, right? And I think if you I grew up pretty low income, and when I hear people like, oh, money doesn't buy you happiness, and I'm like, well, it can buy you security, and lots of other things that, and I think you're right. Like, education is an investment that a lot of people are willing to pay for, but they just can't make it happen. And they need the support. They need the scholarships to take the edge off,
That's right.
Last question. This is not part of the rapid fire. Actually, one more question on rapid fire.
Okay.
I'm adding this in. I haven't asked anyone else.
Okay.
It's kind of silly, but I feel like we need a little
I love
levity.
silly.
Aisle or window?
Oh, aisle every day, girl. Aisle every day. Every single app. Aisle. Always.
Aisle. Okay.
You see me? I need to stretch the legs. I'm short, but I need to stretch.
That's fantastic.
Plus, I'm in control of who gets to go to the bathroom.
I know. That's my thing. I'm a window. I can survive in the aisle. It's fine. But I like windows, so I can curl up next to the window.
Sure.
But I also don't feel bad when I'm like, hi, I need to get up.
Right.
Because I'm like, you chose aisle. So,
yeah, it's all good.
Okay, and then lastly, if you, reflecting on your career, if you could briefly share a piece of advice you would have for somebody who's coming up and they see themselves hopefully becoming an SIO like you someday, what's a piece of advice you'd give them?
I would say give yourself grace. I think there is a lot of learning in hindsight. It's not necessarily in the moment. I have a lot of time that I spend really looking in the rearview mirror, right? And the penny drops years later, and I go, good golly, what? Why did I not figure this out in the moment, right? So I think in the moment, it's good to ask questions. I was raised in a culture where we did not question authority, and so I have lost out on many opportunities. So I would say, A, don't hesitate to ask questions, but 2, give yourself grace. Sometimes the rearview mirror is highly illuminating. And it's embarrassing sometimes to think of how many mistakes one made and didn't pick up on it.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I think about 27-year-old Brooke, and I'm like, that kid didn't know anything.
Right?
She thought she knew everything.
We all did. Correct. And I would also say to that person, when you become a supervisor, be kind.
Yes.
Be graceful, be giving, because people learn by making mistakes. I think, I've known supervisors who've been harsh. I am scarred for life by people who have hurt me. They are probably blissfully unaware because that's the person who is not self-aware. So I think being self-aware is super important
Yeah.
because when you can be kind, when you can be loving, flowers bloom.
That's an excellent way to end it. Thank you so much, Roopa, for being on the show, taking time out of your very busy schedule. Now you can go have a drink and go to bed.
I love it because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
Thank you so
awesome.
much for having me.